get up early in the morning and go to bed early in the night, and that's pretty much a success story of me.
Welcome to Agency for Change, a podcast from KidGlov that brings you the stories of changemakers who are actively working to improve our communities. In every episode, we'll meet with people who are making a lasting impact in the places we call home.
I absolutely love having a career in advertising. It is the perfect blend of art, theater, and business. And in this line of work, you get to learn about a variety of topics and invent new ways to get people to respond. Today, I get to talk with someone who had a long and fulfilling career in advertising. He describes himself as a lucky guy, and I think he lived the American dream. He's also celebrating a big milestone life event. Hey, everyone, this is Lynn Weinman, President and Chief Strategist of KidGlov. Welcome to another episode of the Agency for Change podcast. Today's guest is Tom Reese, formerly of Reese and Associates, and now retired, getting ready for a big birthday celebration. Tom, welcome to the podcast.
Well, I thank you, Lynn. It's a pleasure to be talking to you.
I can't imagine there's anything unhappy in your neck of the woods at this point. It sounds lovely in Florida. But Tom, would you please introduce yourself to our listeners? What should they know about you, and how would you describe yourself?
Well, I'll describe myself as a lucky guy. I graduated from high school in 1951, and it was right during the period of the Korean War. At that time, I had a job offer, but I didn't want to be because the draft was operating at that time. So I went and a couple of my friends, we went down and joined the Navy, and I ended up being assigned to an American destroyer and spent 2 years on that. And the Korean War ended, and I got reassigned to NATO headquarters, a high power international security force, Supreme Allied Command Forces. And I was assigned to the public relations in that command. That was my first big experience in the world of communications, and had a very interesting boss. My boss was a commander in the, and was recalled from the Second World War into the Korean War zone. And he had been a professor at Haverford University and was a communications and English major teaching, and also was the Navy advisor for the movie The Frogmen. So he kept jumping on me whenever he had a chance to, Tommy, you got to get yourself out of this Navy, go and get to college and become something important. And in the meantime, I learned a lot of things about the communication. So anyway, I was inspired about college, started making my plans, and I ended up, of course, I had the GI Bill coming to me. And so I headed to a junior college in Pennsylvania, spent 2 years there with receiving an associate degree. And then after a lot of checking and review, I ended up in Boston University to get a Bachelor of Science degree. So that was my key, my door opener to the communications world. Left me with about half of what I needed to get through college. So I worked my way. I got a job at Boston University. Was lucky again. And between the GI Bill and the working at the school, I ended up leaving the college with very little debt, not like some of the kids today.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, then in 1959, job market was kind of, but again, I was lucky guy and I had some nice offers. The Hamilton Watch Company in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, was a marketing trainee. Well, during the time I was at Hamilton, I worked with a lot of different agencies, big ones out of New York, small ones of the region. And after the 13 years and a wonderful career at Hamilton, I had an opportunity, a job offer from an advertising agency that worked with us to become an account executive for them to work on industrial products account, primarily Ingersoll Rand and the products that they had to offer. This was a family-owned agency with 130 to 150 employees, varied at the time. So I spent 10 years account executive to a senior vice president of account services. It was a very eye-opening experience. Really enjoyed it very much. But during that time, my reputation in the community grew, and a client of ours came to me and said, "Tom, there's a fellow that calls on me who has a small agency, and he would like to grow, but he needs someone with your experience to get together with him and get this agency moving along." So I'm several months, in fact, negotiating with this young man, and we got together, and I joined him in the small agency, which was primarily consumer products at the time. In joining that company, I did not have a compete clause with me that I was working with. Very easy for me to leave that business into his operation. My job with him was to take part ownership as we grew.
Tom, first of all, I want to say thank you for your service. And I also want to say it sounds like you have lived the American dream. I love that story. And so I'm curious, when you ended up taking over the agency and it eventually became Reese and Associates, talk to me about that decision. Did you always want to have your own firm?
Well, Ted, as a kid that grew up in a blue collar family, it was never thought in my mind that I would have a position. But after I then learned a lot about running a company, and especially with my 10 years that I spent with that other, and which was a family owned agency at the time, I felt capable that I could certainly do the job. And then with the backing of some financial people and my accounting group, I felt very comfortable in going ahead and becoming an owner. So it didn't get the dream in my mind, probably with the family owned agency, that I felt that was now ready to run a company by myself. That company was making a lot of mistakes in dealing with its employees and dealing with its clients. They weren't close. And what happened, the owner and his sons ended up running the business, and they had no idea how to run the business. And then they fired the guy of the business to get out of their way. And so it was a poor situation. But anyway, I felt I learned a lot about their mistakes, which when I came to the point of having to run my own those mistakes, I'm very comfortable that I could go ahead and, and I did. I had the company for 25, 26 years. So that was a dream that came late.
That's that's fantastic. That's fantastic. I love that story. So Tom, I was introduced to you by your son Kevin, who is a friend of mine, and I'm curious, as a person who was running their own agency, you must have been a pretty busy guy. How did you balance work and family at that time?
Well, when I took over the agency, I traveled a lot. First of all, in my younger days with corporate life, I traveled tremendously, and it was tough for my kids, and my wife did a good job of keeping them under control. But the Reese and Associates agency work, I didn't travel as much, at least overnight. There was a lot of daytime traveling, but I could go and occasional sales meetings that I would attend. But anyway, I got along with them well, and I guess I can get in at this point is that Kevin, he joined from college. He came to me and said he would like to come to the agency. I said, no way, Jose. You go out and get yourself a job experience before you do that. Well, anyway, he got a job with one of our clients, battery company, and he worked for them for a while, a couple of years, in fact, local area. And then he was offered a job in, it was in the Midwest where he was offered a territory as a salesman. And he took, he liked it. Well, while he was there, he was offered another job in California, went there, got married, and then he and his wife decided they'd come back east. So he came back and he said, now I got some experience. How about I come to the agency? So he did, came to the agency and worked on primarily the battery companies because we had a couple of them, knew a lot about that business. And he and his wife, they lived about 40 miles from our agency, and he commuted daily. So after a few years, they kind of got fed up commuting, and they wanted to stay in the Philadelphia market. And I just said, there's no, with you living 40, 50 miles away, you can get involved with this agency long range. So he and his wife decided to move out west and move to Colorado, where he is today, and had been there a long time. So it was a good experience, a happy departure, because he started his own career, his own agency, in fact, when he got out into Colorado. But so he worked the agency.
That's
And
great.
then after I bought, from my partner, who was working at the time, let's see, she had the agency, she joined the agency, but she came out of hospital for about 10 years. And in the capacity where she called on industry and was a fundraiser for the hospital. She left there and went to a college that she had graduated from and worked for a couple of years. I wasn't awfully happy with the president of that place. So when I bought the agency, place for you in the agency, so it's time to join us. So she came and joined us, and she took on public relations and in developing community relations for us, step as we move forward in growth. So she came there. Well, then, and she ended up retiring for the company. The other, the oldest daughter, she wanted a part-time job. So she did work for us until she finally got married and moved away. And that was her career in the agency. And finally, the youngest daughter did not work there. So anyway, those three were there. And so we all in the agency, but we didn't talk business at the dining room table, talking about all the problems of the agency when we were trying to eat. So that was a rule that we continued with, and we talk all we could of the agency and not carry it through every night.
That sounds like a great rule. As an agency owner myself, my two daughters work for KidGlov, and we have to have the same rule because the rest of our family really don't want to hear us talk about work all the time when we get together for dinner or family time.
Yeah, you're right, because it's bad enough.
Yes, it's bad enough during the day. One constant in the world of advertising is that everything seems to always be changing. And marketing has changed so much probably in the last several years. I'm curious, what were some of the hot trends in advertising during your career?
Well, the biggest thing that happened running the agency was computerization in in bringing it into the agency from entirely handwork to computer work. And that was the biggest thing, was the art department,
Yeah.
having our artists go from the board to the computer. In fact, we lost a couple of people who wouldn't do it. And of course, it gave us so much control and so much accuracy and everything. The speed in which we did things was on the agency previously that I worked. Used to say this: we were lucky if we got 5 ads produced from Monday through Friday. Full method of having to go through the development and the art of the copy to setting the time and then getting approved and read. It was Friday before we got to see anything. We were knocking out 5 ads in a day, and that was because everything was brought control from the financial part of it to the production part of it to every facet of it. As we finally got the entire agency onto computers, the billing and the creative production, whatever, it was a tremendous changeover from the days of pencil work. I can remember waiting for billing far beyond the monthly closers. And then now we could almost look every day at where we stood with the billing, pull up a job, and people say, "Oh, well, how much do we have in this particular job?" It used to take us a week to figure it out when we were doing pencil work, and then with computerization, we could do it in a couple of minutes. So that was the biggest thing I think that happened in the agency work, and our profit structure really changed. I had 3 partners. I had a financial person, a creative person, and a account management person. The 3 vice presidents, and then we had all people in the agency report to one of those divisions, and took that where I could concentrate more and grow, visit with clients, and spend more time on client work rather than worry about the petty things that people have in the front of the agency. And it was a good changeover and helped us in our whole growth picture more than anything else that I could. So does that answer your question?
It does. And you took me back, because when I started my career in advertising a little over 30 years ago, I remember things switching over to technology. But my first job was as an agency runner. And I would go to the type house every day and get the type, and then somebody would cut it up and literally paste it onto a board. And if you made a mistake, you had to go get more type. And there were people that were really good about taking words apart and putting them together, where now that can all be done in minutes, if not seconds. So,
Yeah, and so that took time. Uh, we almost lost a day going back and forth with getting the type from that guy.
yep. Tom, what do you think makes advertising such a great career to be in?
It's you have to say that back in the old days, because now I'm very confused into the advertising world today and all the social media, and I'm sure glad that I'm out of it. But to me, it was extremely rewarding from the standpoint of doing things that made our clients happy.
Yeah.
And when our clients were happy, we were all happy. Then when you do a great PR program or a great ad, and the thing is successful, the company is successful, the products are selling, that was my biggest reward, is the knowing that we did a job, people came back time after time. We ended up with probably on the average about 100 clients a year. We went up a little bit and down a little bit, but we had, and I would say it was the old 80-20. 20 of those gave us 80% of the business. We had some big clients, all kinds of clients, from industrial clients, banks, which were wonderful, very diverse. We really were across the board. And that part, even that we were nominated for the small business of the Chamber of Commerce and the community gave us the award as the Small Business of the Year award in one of the years. So we were pleased with our recognition.
That's fantastic. So, Tom, is there anything you wish you'd done differently in your career?
One of the things that I wished I didn't do was that I established an ESOP program in the business, in the Reese business.
Yeah.
And that was probably most expensive and poorest decision because it cost so much to set it up. And I thought it would be we had a nice retirement program, and
Yeah.
I thought that would be to have, but it turned out to be trouble when I went to sell the business but that was probably the worst one that I made personally in the operation of the agency.
It sounds like you had a pretty good path. If that was your biggest mistake, I think you did have a lucky life, a good life. It sounds like you worked hard, you took care of your clients and your people, and you made good decisions, which I think is always a good formula for success. Tom, I want to switch gears because I hear you've got a big milestone coming up in March. Can you tell us what that is?
Yes, I'll be 90 years old in March 4th,
Well,
and
congratulations.
looking forward to it.
I
Uh,
hope someone's planning a big party for you.
Well, yeah, it was a big secret, but I understand now that everybody's talking. But yes, it's going to be just a matter of who's coming and who's not, and the list. And my wife has a lot of her friends on there instead of mine. So, but we'll get that straightened out.
So I'm curious, is there anything on your bucket list, Tom, that you're looking to accomplish?
My wife, she's going like, yeah, but we travel extensively, so I don't have any real desire to travel anymore. It's become so difficult from a standpoint of getting through airports, and so I just hope that I can remain healthy and continue to have fun, still play some golf. We go out, drink a lot, have a lot of parties, and that's pretty much the way I see it. I don't see we've been to Russia, we've been to Alaska, every times we've been to the Caribbean, but we've traveled. In fact, I can't think of any place like to go at this point. So,
Uh,
a lot of people say, "Oh, here I got to travel before I die." I've been to all of them, but it's really hot. Just that I should stay healthy and keep kicking.
I like that. I like that. I'm going to ask you my favorite question next because you have such an inspiring story. Can you give us an original quote, an original Tom Reese quote to inspire our listeners?
Get up early in the morning and go to bed early in the night, and that's pretty much a success story of me. Uh, I would hope that in the next couple of years that we get some leadership that's worthy, and that the nation starts backing them, and then get an advertising or public relations program. We'll never get everybody, but relationship between our government and our population, because it just keeps going. And that bothers me.
Yeah.
And the lack of trust between people and the government. It's never a day that there isn't something new and crazy that's happening. So if I had a wish, I wish that would be one, that we come together to some degree and move forward as a nation. We'll see. I don't know. People go in a lot of different directions.
We'll see. That is a fantastic wish. And on that note, I'm going to say thank you. Thank you for taking time to tell your story. As an agency owner and an advertising professional myself, I found it very inspiring. And Tom, I think the world needs more people like you And I just want to close by wishing you a very, very happy 90th birthday in March.
Look, thank you.
We hope you enjoyed today's Agency for Change podcast. To hear all our interviews with those who are making a positive change in our communities, or to nominate a changemaker you'd love to hear from, visit KidGlov.com at KIDGLOV.com to get in touch. As always, if you like what you've heard today, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and share. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.